Hi, everyone. Welcome to the GoldFish Report. I'm your host, Louisa. Today is Tuesday, July 2nd, 2019. And this is our 370th GoldFish Report. And here to bring a very special message from St. Germain is our friend, Dr. Scott Werner. How are you, Scott? And so, thanks so much for being with us today.
Oh, I thank you every time. I love being on the Goldfish Report. I feel like it helps enlighten the world. And so thank you, Louisa, for who you are and what you're doing.
Well, it's a pleasure, I'll tell you, and you're absolutely right. These are probably some of the highest, I have to tell you, my interviews with you are the highest rating interviews I've ever done. On BitChute, we have 144,000 views on your messages. It's amazing. These things travel across the world in lightning speed. 125,000 views on these reports. My political reports don't come close to this, so I know people want a positive message. They want
Yes.
help. They want help. They want positive messages. There's so much negativity. They had enough. And today, I know you're going to bring a message from St. Germain. People who know your background know your connection with St. Germain. We'll just leave it at that. But this is about relationships, really. This is about relationships with parents, ourselves. Look, we're going into Mercury retrograde. Everything's going to get brought back up now, Scott. So the message has to do with your relationship with the divine ultimately. So I'll let you go ahead and get started with your message.
Well, thank you. You know, I'm doing this mentoring thing, and St. Germain, when I spoke in Mount Shasta, he came to me the week before, says, Scott, you're going to do mentoring. And I was like, I am? And so I got up and I gave a talk, and he came through. St. Germain just literally channeled a lot of information through. People lined up. We got the 7 sisters taken care of the Pleiades, because all 7 of them had signed up. And so I was told by Nostradamus, I'm kind of doing a recap of a bunch of stuff.
Okay.
And Nostradamus came and told me the importance of our brains and how our right hemisphere can project into the future. Our left hemisphere can project into the past. And when they're in congruence, as you notice, I'm rotating opposite on my head because the right brain will rotate in a clockwise manner from this side, and the left brain rotates in a clockwise manner from the other side. So they're actually rotating opposite. And we as humans have the ability to see in the past and to see in the future. And many of us aren't real congruent with our present. And we're all worried about all the crap we did in the past, all our karmic stuff, even past life stuff. And we're afraid it's going to affect our future, but we don't make our present the best we can in order to become what we want in the future. And so that's kind of what I'm wanting to talk about today, is our relationships right now with the present and our self-worth. Because if we don't feel like we're worth changing, we won't change. We won't take the steps necessary to change. And so with the mentoring, St. Germain is having me delve into the psychology of change, of actually getting ourselves to move forward. And one of the biggest stoppers we have is our own self-worth, our own self-love. And this stems from our childhood, you know, from being a baby and going right up through to our adulthood. And we carry a lot of genetic garbled up mess because we inherit a lot of our attitudes and aptitudes from our ancestors, believe it or not. You know, in the Bible it talks about, you know, the sins of the fathers and mothers fall upon the children 4 to 5 generations. And sometimes it's a generational thing that even goes even longer than that. And so our relationship with our moms, our relationships with our dads are very important. And the cabal knew this, and that's why they cause wars and pestilence and problems, is because they know if they can disrupt the family unit, it'll disrupt our ability to unenslave ourselves and free our minds. And that's the truth. You know, if you know the truth, it'll set you free. So I've had so many people who have had poor relationships with their mothers, poor relationship with their fathers. And the mom is your relationship with your divine feminine aspect of your psychology. And your dad is the relationship with the divine masculine. And if either one of these relationships are a difficult relationship or out of balance or not even there, it really affects our psyche. And the third most important is our higher belief or power in God. And, you know, right now, with all of the chlorine and fluoride in our environment, in our water, our pineal gland gets all calcified, and our pineal gland is the gland associated with that cerebral chakra that connects us to God. And that's why so many people are getting into, you know, LSD and these hallucinogens and everything, because they want to reconnect with the energy of God. And that those you know, magic mushrooms, they actually stimulate more DMT to come out of the pituitary gland. And when it gets calcified, it doesn't produce it at all. And so that's why there's so much talk about reactivating our pituitary gland and our pineal gland, because these glands have to do with the pituitary with our clairvoyance, our pineal with our claircognizance, or knowing that God exists. And so I want to talk a little bit about these, because I'm finding even the sexual revolution has caused a lot of problems, because, you know, so many people have gotten into the, you know, adultery and all kinds of pedophilia, all these things that are contrary to our self-worth, because they damage our self-worth when we do these sort of things. And we have to forgive mostly ourselves, because we know we probably shouldn't be doing these things. And boy, I tell you, we've had pedophilia shoved right in our face, because in my wife's family, this guy was caught molesting his daughter. And, you know, it's like, it's the most disgusting thing I can think of. And it is pedophilia, because she was, you know, underage, and he was just thinking in very erratic ways that even, you know, I don't even know how people can get it. Well, I do, because I know the psychology behind it, because it has a lot to do with your own self-value and your own self-worth. Because if your incongruence with your self-love, you don't harm other people, especially kids in your own family. I mean, it's like, my gosh, you know. And so we have to figure out how to love ourselves, number one, and make our self-worth come back. And so currently I'm mentoring a lot of people with these kind of issues. For instance, I have a man I'm mentoring currently who, you know, every time he sees a woman, he gets these urges. And these stem from childhood, believe it or not. And so we have to deal with what happened in their childhood. And as I, you know, got into the psychology of it with him, found that his relationship with his mother wasn't good, that she put him down a lot, and she didn't give him praise for doing good things. And same thing with his father. His father was distant, as many of our fathers were, and didn't help teach him the right way to treat women, didn't teach him the proper way of etiquette and everything. And so as he grew up, you know, our society teaches us we get hit with sexual stuff from very early on, you know, just through the advertising. Sex sells. And so the advertising is just horrible. And we get taught from a very young age to act on our negative belief systems that are created through these advertisements and different things. And so it's literally created an environment, I should use my proper English, an environment where we become abusive to others through our own incorrect thinking. And that incorrect thinking has been created because of our environment. So it feeds off of itself. And so what we need to do is change the environment, not only of our advertising, the ads, all of this stuff, but we need to incorporate more morality within our society. Because, you know, we're kind of at the point where everybody wants to get rid of all the rules and not even recognize the laws that were made. Because most of these laws were based on, you know, and people hate it when I say this, but it's true. The United States was founded on Judeo-Christian ideology and rules of morality. And as you know, the political scene right now is trying to say, oh, it wasn't founded on Christian Judeo rules. We were founded on just pure liberty, doing whatever the hell we want, you know,
Right.
and letting our minds just, and that's the problem we're having, is people don't have rules. They don't have morality. They don't have the laws we need to keep basic society healthy. Because those rules that were given by God were essentially to take care of each other and not do certain things that damage our psychology and our society. Because if you look at what's happened, the whole sexual revolution, you know, when we got birth control and women were freed up to have sex without the worry of having babies all the time. And the whole revolution caused an opening up of, you know, the men to seeing more and being able to go out and do more immoral things. And it's affected our leaders, it's affected society. We don't have barriers that keep us safe and protected. You know, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the cabal knows this, that if they can mess with our morality, they can mess with our society and control us. Because once we become amoral or not following rules and laws of etiquette and morality, we create an environment where our self-worth goes down and our worth of others goes down, because we treat each other like animals instead of a higher species, an intelligent species, a species with free will and free choice. We take away that free will and free choice through our immorality, because every time we do something immoral, it affects not only us, but it affects others and their self-worth. And so I know this is a huge bucket of worms, but it's something we need to start deworming our society of and creating the proper boundaries that we need to have through our laws and morals. And the laws are there. But the problem is there's a whole part of society now that wants to totally take away all the rules and just have this society where everybody's taken care of and yet nobody's taken care of because we're not addressing the amorality of everything.
Here, I'm going to screen share this so you can explain. Can you see these pyramids here?
Yes.
So go ahead and our viewers have some visual on what this Maslow's hierarchy of needs is for those who may have or may not be familiar with it, because psychology is my degree and my background. So I always have these pretty handy. Scott,
I love them.
Go ahead and explain this.
Yes, the very basic survival needs are our physiological life sustenance: food, water, warmth, a shelter where we can rest, and the other basic needs are in the next echelon, which is the safety and security. Now, you know, governments were made to provide these bottom two. And when we have the wars, when we have pestilence, when we have all of the lack of money, the lack of the basic things and the distribution of the food and the water and making the water more pure. You know, here we are in a very modern country and we're adulterating our water so bad that it's not as healthy as it needs to be. And so these are basic needs that our government should provide. And, even the safety and security, a lot of people don't like the police. They've gotten a really bad rap. And there is corruption, there is problems with it, but we need to have safety and security. And yet, a lot of things happening right now are trying to get rid of these basic security things. And so, around the world, 2 billion people don't even have this bottom part filled. Actually, there's more than 2 billion. And even in countries that are supposedly, prosperous and doing good, we have a lot of basic problems with the basic needs. You go to any city in the United States, there's homeless, there's people who don't have breakfast or lunch or dinner, and they don't have anywhere to stay. And so you go all over the place, and there's many, many homeless people. And, a lot of them, believe it or not, 40% of them are usually ex-military. And they have these self-worth issues because when you go to war, you get traumatized by the things you have to do, and it affects your psychology, and your self-worth goes way down. And I've had to deal with these people throughout my life. And when I say deal with them, I was grateful to take care of them, because I'm very grateful that there's these people who have served our nation. But I've seen so much PTSD, and it really messes with the mind and the physiology of the body. And so in order to help these people, like I took care of a super soldier back in the 1990s, and he was a super soldier during the Vietnam War. This guy was a big, buff, 6'5", had muscles, the guy was you could tell he'd been genetically modified. But he had the worst PTSD out of anybody I've ever met, and he had chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, and chronic pain. But most of it was psychological. And so I had to help him forgive himself, develop his self-worth. And the way we do that is we go into the relationship with the divine feminine. I had to delve into his relationship with his mother, and then I had to delve into his relationship with his father. And the very best thing that I've found that helps us deal with issues with our mother and issues with our father is to do Ho'oponopono. Ho'oponopono is a magnificent thing that was given to us by the kahuna from Hawaii. It's how 10 million Hawaiians lived on those small islands in peace and love for centuries before the white men came in and brought smallpox and all the different diseases we had, and we literally killed off 10 million Hawaiians, and they ended up with only a couple 100,000 Hawaiians once, you know, they had gotten through all these diseases that literally killed millions of Hawaiians off. And the Hawaiians were such a loving people, they didn't hold anything against the, you know, Captain Cook and those people that brought all these diseases. They actually tried to maintain their system of love and taking care of each other. And yet, you know, we just kind of destroyed a whole civilization out there in the middle of the Pacific through our just taking advantage of different things and bringing diseases and sexually transmitted diseases. And a lot of these things contribute to the dissolution of a society. But the Hawaiians used Ho'oponopono. They, you know, basically they would say, I love you, and I'm sorry for what happened between us, and then I forgive you, and I forgive myself. You know, that's one of the things we forget about with Ho'oponopono is we have to forgive ourselves as well as the other person.
Well, before I take this off, I'm sorry to interrupt. Before I take this off the screen, I wanted, could you explain for the viewers who don't understand how the pyramid works in terms of fulfilling each level before?
Yes.
Okay. And then what happens when something comes to, like, you know, let's say all of a sudden you lose your home, what happens to you on that pyramid then? And
yes.
Okay, that interaction?
The very basic needs are on the bottom. You know, and that's shelter, your food, your water, your clothing, things that are very basic. And anytime we have difficulties having these things, it makes it very difficult to move up into the next level. And so we need to provide the basic survival needs, the physiological needs, before we can move up and start getting safety and security, freedom from fear, because, you know, fear keeps us from progressing also. Fear, I've always taught, is the opposite of faith and creation. And so fear keeps us from being able to move forward in our life because we can't create what we truly desire. And so we need that next level of safety and security so that we can move up into the next level of love and belonging and social cohesion, you know, community needs. And so, and our self-worth goes up as we move into this level, especially because in this level, you receive love and give love, and not on a sexual level, but on a caring level for yourself, your spouse, your kids, your family, and your community. And so in order to move up to that level, we need the safety and security. And you know, the founding fathers knew these things. And they knew that if they gave a foundation for the basic needs, because, you know, when England was in charge of us, we could only get to level 2 because they kept putting us down and taxing us and giving us rules to repay the king who was, you know, 3,000 miles away in another country, in another land. And we wanted to move into higher levels, but we didn't have that ability because of the suppressive ideology that was controlling us. And even back then, you know, the cabal was alive and strong. And so they continued to suppress us. And the whole revolution was about bringing about an ability to move into the higher levels. And so when St. Germain helped our founding fathers construct the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence, declaring what we desired for our society, we were able to move up into the higher levels, the love and belonging, and get the basic incomes and prosperity coming into the country without it being ransacked all the time. And we were able to move up into the self-esteem where we started achieving things and having self-improvement. And with the freedoms we had, we were able to scientifically and industrially advance the entire world through what we were creating, because many of us reached the highest level, which is the self-actualization, higher purpose, innovation, creativity, breakthroughs. In other words, our connection not only with self, but with God and the universe, where there are actually more creative things going on than we realize. And we can tap into that when we get into that highest level of self-actualization. And so that's why this Maslow's hierarchy of needs is a very basic outline of how the United States became the greatest, because of our ability to create freedom for the creators of all that we has surpassed human technology over the eons of time. Now, humans go through these cycles, and we go through these basic hierarchy of needs. And when a society gets up in the highest echelon and starts creating things, we get at a point where we have abundance and prosperity, and we start moving even further on. But then we actually create sometimes things that destroy the prosperity and self-actualization, and we move into an era of suppression. And I hate to say it, but politically speaking, we're at that precipice right now where we could have the bubble burst and we end up back down into a low vibration and back into the basic survival needs, or we expand and get into a better future. And the better future is what St. Germain and Jesus and all the ascended masters want us to tune into, because we are creating our future. So if we keep our thoughts in higher realms of morality, of taking care of people, of loving people, of helping people get their self-esteem back, help them to have love and belonging, that's where we're going to move into an era of peace, prosperity, and plenty. And that's what we're trying to get into right now. And so we don't want to destroy that through our own amorality.
And you're saying that any point in life that you're on any stage on that pyramid, let's say you get to the actualization level,
Yes.
And then just for sake of argument, and of course this probably happened to many people, something happens, you have let's say the 2008 crisis, housing crisis, and all of a sudden you find your house is your mortgage is more than the value of your actual house, so you're underwater. Yeah. And you find yourself not only not having any equity in the home you've been paying for, but the bank's going to foreclose on you because something's happened. Suddenly you find yourself in a situation where that stability of your home is no longer there. What happens? So then you have a dilemma that you experience, and that can pull you right back down. So I guess the point I'm trying to say is that we're always because of circumstances and that are beyond our control, even be the universe stepping in, bringing a tower moment for people who read tarot cards. You know what that means. Sometimes the universe can force that on you too. So what happens is you have this dilemma that forces you back down to a lower level. Does that mean because we didn't resolve things that we had to go back down? There's still something to look at, Scott, that we weren't. Because you know what, Louise Hay's book, and I talk about her every time you and I get together, Scott.
Yes.
I just love her book, You Can Heal Your Life.
Oh, I love Louise Hayes. I actually met her and talked to her for a couple hours personally. It was very cool.
Oh, I'm sure it was. And, I think she had recurring bouts of cancer and things because she really didn't fully resolve these things you're talking about. But, the problem with the super soldiers is that it's all engineered. Actually, all of our problems are engineered in a way. But with the super soldiers, the way their program works is that there's not supposed to be a functional, healthy bond with the mother. It's a dysfunctional bond. It's just enough so that the child can thrive. But it's, there's always a breach of trust. And whether these people, whether you're a super soldier or not, just that, from my personal experience, use that example, those kinds of programs, it's really horrible. I mean, and there's lots of people who've been involved in these satanic ritual abuse families who also, there was incest, and that is the ultimate violation of trust. How can these people ever trust again? How can you help them?
Yes, and that's where the mentoring comes in, and why St. Germain is having me mentor people to become mentors. Is we need to take these basic laws of morality, of physics, of psychology, and use them to assist people to get out of that loss of their self-worth, loss of their self-love, which comes about because they've not had good relationships, they've not had good experiences. And help create. We are creating our reality. And so we have to take those blockages of self-worth, self-love, self-mutilation. I mean, I've seen stuff in my life as a doctor, especially as a OBGYN, that were just horrible. And it was so interesting because very early in my career, I started helping people build their trust, build their self-esteem, build their thoughts, and put them into positive motion, and help people deal with their mother issues, their father issues, their divine feminine issues, their divine masculine issues. And as we would help them make corrections and forgiveness and love and sorrow and gratitude. Gratitude is one of the most amazing things there is, and that's a part of Ho'oponopono. It's I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, please forgive myself, and then I am thankful. I have gratitude for these experiences. Because gratitude vibrates in unconditional love. On Power versus Force, Dr. David Hawkins made what he called the map of consciousness. And I bring this up a lot because if you can get into unconditional love, you can change your physiology, you can change your mind, you can change your psychology. And gratitude puts us up into unconditional love. And so the gratitude part is one of the most important parts, because not only do you love yourself, forgive others, love others, and ask for forgiveness, but we go into gratitude, which raises our consciousness.
I'm going to screen share that chart for viewers. I just pulled it up for everybody, and you can talk about that if you like, Scott, because
I would love to.
That's really important what you're saying here. So
yes, the map of consciousness. David Hawkins, and I had the privilege and honor of meeting him a couple of times and talking to him. And it was really interesting. He was an MD psychiatrist, and he had his PhD. And, you know, he loved to prove things. And he would have people come in, and, you know, back then Prozac was really big. It just came out, and it was considered a miracle drug, and all the doctors saying, oh, we need to put this in the water so that everybody won't be depressed. But anyway, he would prescribe people a medication, and then they'd come in and they'd sit at his table and they'd pound the medication on the table, and they said, this isn't testing good for me. And Hawkins would look at him and he'd go, who tested it? Oh, my chiropractor or my naturopath. And he tested using kinesiology, used my strength of my body, and it made my body become very weak. And David Hawkins said, baloney, that stuff's a bunch of crap. And so he set out to disprove kinesiology, which is, kinesi is energy, and theology is the study of energy. And for some reason, they put kinesiology with muscle testing, because people were using the force of strength or weakness to determine what was good and bad for them. So they called it kinesiology. But anyway, this map of consciousness came up because David Hawkins started doing a PhD study about kinesiology, and he came to find that it worked. It worked not only in most people, but in all people. And so there was no way of measuring what he was testing. And so he came up with this map of consciousness through testing people. And, you know, he found that different emotions tested at different vibrations and energy of strength. And the most powerful strength was unconditional love and enlightenment. The people who were at those levels tested the strongest, believe it or not, in their physiologic response to stress. And so he put that at the top, and then it's a logarithmic. In other words, 100 to 200 isn't just 100, it's literally 10,000 times stronger. So when you go from fear to courage, you become 10,000 times stronger. From courage to willingness, you go up another 10,000. From willingness to reason, you go up another 10,000. From reason to love, another 10,000, and so forth. And so the energy increases exponentially. And the cabal knows that if they can keep us in the bottom below 200, that they can keep control over our minds because we're weakened. Our physiology, our psychology, our emotional state is weakened. But if we can move up above 200, which is neutrality, believe it or not, neutral means you're producing as much positive as negative energies. So if you can get above neutrality, and when I talked with David Hawkins, he feels like courage is where we get to when we can move higher. And he put neutrality above it because people who move through the courage in a positive way can move into neutrality and higher. Those who don't move through courage, they stay down in the lower vibrations. And so, yeah, it was quite interesting.
And you can see on the side here, you can see that below courage, there on the right-hand side, I know this might be hard for some viewers to see, but it does say destructive energy. I'll use the cursor here to circle it.
Yeah.
Destructive energy, and then above courage, it says creative energy, which is expansive.
Yep. Down below, that's contractive energy.
Contracted, yeah, that's what I thought. It's
contracted energy. And so we're trying now, in order to become an evolved world, we have to move above 500. because when we move past or into love, we actually are not harming others at all. And our minds, our emotional body, our every aspect of us is on helping others and creating projects to help others. And that's where many people have moved into. We've got about 300,000 of us on the planet right now who are above 500 on this chart. And we're trying to get the whole planet to move above 500. And the only way we're going to be able to do this is to resolve our self-worth issues, believe it or not.
No, absolutely. And look what it says there in courage at 200. Right to the left of that, it says power first appears. Just like you were saying, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Because until, like you're saying, you process these lower vibrational energies, which also attract entities, right? They attract lower vibrational energies, right? So whatever you're resonating at is what you're attracting. It's just the way Nikola Tesla said it. Everything is energy, right?
Yes.
So you have to resolve these things on this lower vibrational level. Courage seems like, and Louise Hay used to say this. I just love her. Like, God rest her soul, right? The point of power is always in the present moment. The past is gone. You can't do anything about it. The future hasn't happened yet. The only time you can do anything, you can change anything about your life is always in the present moment. And that's where courage, you have to have that courage to come in. It's amazing. I'm looking at this. I love it. It's wonderful. It's hard, intellectually we all get it, but the emotional drag of not having these past emotions involved is what keeps us back. It's the drag, in air or in water, but in the energy of life, it's drag, meaning, you can't move, it prevents you from moving forward. But that's amazing that it says that encourage is really where that point of power appears. It's amazing.
Yes. That courage can move you forward, or if you lose courage, you move back. Now, one of the things as a medical doctor I found was apathy, guilt, and shame all vibrate in the vibration of viruses. Grief vibrates in the vibration of bad bacterial infections. Fear vibrates in parasites. So if you're in fear and have anxiety, you attract parasites into your body, and human parasites towards you also. And then in desire and anger vibrates in the vibration of fungus. And so I found by treating those you can move your vibration up, because when your body's full of parasites, you can't get beyond the fear, anxiety, and worry. And if you're full of viruses, you're in apathy, guilt, shame, and blame.
Right. So parasites, like when you're talking not just physical parasites, but energetic, etheric, kind of like the way the central banking system has been a parasite to humans on the planet, right?
Yes.
Sorry, I have to throw that in there.
and whenever we move higher on the scale of the consciousness, they cause a war to happen, and wars cause us to go down into fear. And so 9/11, when 9/11 happened, just before 9/11, we tested the vibration of humanity, and we were actually up into willingness, and we were moving forward. But when 9/11 happened, the entire population dropped back down into fear.
I'm going to screen share another chart here, or actually it's not a chart. It's let me see.
I think it's great you're putting these up.
Yeah, this is a Q post, and this is exactly help us put this into context of the chart we're looking at, so people can understand that this has been engineered, folks. This is a Q post. People are pawns in their sick game of global domination. People are divided to prevent a rising of the people. People are divided and taught to fight themselves instead of the ruling class central bankers, so to speak. Race versus race, religion versus religion, political versus political, class versus class, sex versus sex. You are divided. When you are divided, you are weak. When you are weak, you have no power. And this would show that, right? When you have no power, you have no control. Stay strong, patriots. Stay united, not divided. You are what matters. You awake is their greatest fear. So how has this has been genetically, I'm sorry, this has been probably genetically engineered as well, but I mean, this has been socially engineered. You can see this here. How is this, how do we, so we've been led, basically we've been, I would say, mind controlled, mind manipulated. Okay, we've been socially manipulated to
Yes.
stay, as you said, in this. So what all of this is saying here, what Q is saying here, is what you're representing down here. Is that correct on the
Yes, yes. And we've been kept down in these lower vibrations through the manipulation of the cabal on our economics, of our safety, of our basic needs of water and air and, you know, basic needs and our safety. You know, people just don't feel safe because we've got this huge cocaine problem, opioid problem here in the United States, and a huge methamphetamine problem, and it makes people do things that hurt other people. You know, they rob people, they steal, they do immoral stuff. And they know that if they can keep us on drugs, we do stupid things when we're on drugs. We do amoral things. And it keeps us down in this lower vibration, and it puts the rest of us into fear. And so, you know, the whole drug thing is a huge problem, and it keeps being propagated by the pharmaceutical industry. You know, they make us think they're doing something about it, but over my career, I've seen it's gotten worse and worse and worse. And that's why St. Germain sent me down to Colombia, Medellin, Colombia, to talk with Father Gabriel Mejia. And I wrote a book on that. And it's all about the opioid crisis and how it was started by our own CIA here in the United States to make money for the war machine, believe it or not.
Well,
go ahead.
There was just an article. I could actually find it too. Someone posted on the Chan boards that it was in the news too, that these people who basically take up their own, hold on a second, at the border, okay, there's people who patrol the border who are not border patrol agents, but they're people who do it because, you know, it's a problem. It's a big problem. I'm just going to try to find the list here. Right. Talk about it. Excuse me. No, that's not it. Okay. They found, I can go back up. They found these people in a black SUV coming across the border very, very quickly. And they kind of ran them down, kind of caught up with them, chased them down, rather, not ran them down, but chased them down, found them with, you know, this large amount of cocaine. I mean, I actually have the article here. I'm trying to find it. Turns out it was someone who said that they were working for the CIA, and that this was, in fact, a CIA, here it is. I'll read it to you. It was, the agency was running the operation. It's crazy that it was a CIA operation, and they admitted to it. So here it is. I'm going to read it to you. I don't have it on screen share. It says, El Paso, a group of Minutemen watching the Mexican border for illegal migrants and drug traffickers, have proceeded to the citizen's arrest of two men in an SUV carrying 1,300 pounds of cocaine. The volunteers were completely astonished when the two men pulled out CIA ID cards and explained they were actually carrying the drug as part of their duties, that the cargo belonged to the Central Intelligence Agency. Can't make this up. The incident took place They said last night, I don't know what the date was on this, it was recently. A group of 7 Minutemen saw a large black SUV drive rapidly across the border. They chased the vehicle in their own trucks and achieved to immobilize it after a chase of more than 15 miles. Vigilantes arrested the 2 men on board and called the Border Patrol, who proceeded to search the vehicle. They discovered dozens of packages of cocaine totaling over 1,300 pounds. 2 men claimed to be CIA operatives based in Mexico and explained that the drug was actually part of an operation of the agency. They presented identity cards that seemed to validate their claim. The CIA spokesperson, Dean Boyd, officially denied any link between the organization and the 2 men. And this was on worldnewsdailyreport.com. You can look that up. And it seems that, I'm going to go out on a limb here. There's been a lot of talk about clones and cloning, and from those sources, the clones have to operate on cocaine. You can see if the CIA is involved in doing cloning and cloning world leaders and certain let's just say other kinds of leaders. That the cocaine is, for some reason, they need to have that amphetamine, they need to have that stimulant in order for the clones to operate. I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm not confirming this report. I'm not confirming the report of the cloning, but we can clone. That we can clone sheep and other animals. You think you're really going to stop at animals and not clone humans?
Oh, they've already cloned humans.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. So they can only operate for some reason because they can only operate on cocaine. So that would make sense. I'm just saying that this report would make sense. And so there is a drug operation, but also I wanted to put condolences out to. Sorry to interrupt. I just need to do this real quick. I wanted to put condolences out to Hagman and Hagman because we know that they lost Joe Hagman to allegedly, as they're saying, to a heroin overdose, and the reality of the lower entities that prey on people in these lower vibrations are very real.
Yes.
And so we really want to put our heartfelt messages of sympathy and condolence to the Hagman family for their loss recently. We're all very saddened to hear about it. And this is what you're talking about, Scott. You're talking about getting stuck in these low vibrations and attracting these entities, these demonic, let's say, entities, call them entities, whoever you want, that will prey upon you, and they'll get you to, they'll exploit your fear, they'll exploit your guilt or whatever you're feeling.
Yep.
And you have to stay strong. That's why you need courage. Always battle, put the armor of God on. So I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just wanted to, since you're talking about that, because that was very sad news that came just yesterday. So,
yes. That brings up to me another thing that I'm being told to talk a little bit about.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Is David Icke came out years ago talking about how, our leaders were possessed by reptilian entities and all this stuff that, I was like, whoa, this is way out there. But I've come to find that David Icke was exactly correct. And St. Germain wants me to talk a little bit about the psychological war that's going on, in that our brains produce vibrations and they produce millivolts. And as we think, we create, and we are creating vibrations that go out. Now, they're not very strong, but when everybody's in those fear vibrations, it creates a huge vibration. Because if you get 1 million humans in fear, they're producing 1 million millivolts of that energy. And so, but if you add love from your heart, love can negate huge amounts of negative energy, because our heart vibrates in kilovolts, which is 1,000 volts. Our brain is in 1,000th of a volt. So the difference between what our brains think and our heart is 1,000,000 times the power. So if you can bring people up into that love vibration on, that chart, you are bringing people up from fear. You are creating an environment that is healing, because love heals everything. And that's why Jesus came to talk and teach us about love. And yet people didn't understand love because they were living in fear. They were living in want. They were living in need. They were living in anxiety, worry about what the Romans were going to do to them, worry about their taxes. Just being able to pay the taxes put people in a want. The Romans would confiscate their homes. They would take away things and put them into fear and anxiety and in those lower regimes of Maslow's hierarchy. And so by bringing ourselves up into a higher vibration, especially love, we can shift the consciousness of the planet. In fact, St. Germain was saying that the reptilians are still projecting their thoughts of fear and want on our population. And they've been banned from our solar system, but they're still projecting through the etheric energies their needs and wants, which are fear, suppression, anxiety, all of these lower vibrations. And they're trying to get us humans to stay in those vibrations through their telepathy. And Saint Germain says, now it is time for us to strengthen our thoughts by adding our heart's love and making it 1,000,000 times more powerful. And we will overcome the billions of reptilian energies being shot at us. In fact, we will be so powerful that we're going to shoot it out into them and actually convert them to come into love. And when we bring all this energy into love, it's going to shift the whole planet. But right now we're working on continuing that emanation. Right now, the best thing you can do is learn how to meditate, focus your mind, focus your heart, and create that love vibration, because it's going to heal everything. It's going to shift everything.
Look out on this chart. Can you see the chart, Scott?
Yes.
On the screen, it says dissolves negativity. Love
dissolves
negativity.
Negativity, exactly.
Amazing.
And so when we get in a meditative state and we're vibrating, focusing our brain, focusing our heart on love, we will vaporize negativity. It will go away. Yeah. But we need enough people doing it to shift not only the consciousness of Earth, but of the universe.
It's interesting because recently, it's not on. Someone said something to me recently, and there was a person in my past that had done very harmful, hurtful, terrible things. And they said to me, so-and-so did this to you, like as if I should become that, as if I should then do something to retaliate. And I said, that's not who I am. That's not me. I'm not going to drop my vibration. I'm not going to go, and retaliate because that's not who I am, just because that's who they are. I'm not going to stoop to their level. That's what that means. It means, why would I lower my vibrations? I work so hard to get my vibrations where they are. So why should I lower my vibrations? That person's karma is going to be their karma. I'm not going to, but what happened was it would create more karma from me. And that's what you have to realize. You have to realize that You have to be true to yourself, to what's really in your heart and in your soul, because it's not worth creating karma on yourself to go and retaliate against somebody. Even if you're seeking justice, I don't mean doing it in, just to be vindictive. Like, that's really bad. You're going to create really bad karma for yourself doing that.
Yes.
I just mean when you're trying to seek justice, don't try to retaliate. Jesus said, justice, let justice, or, let justice be mine, let revenge be mine. So, that's what you have to do. You have to have that faith that, in the end, the justice will, one way, hopefully you don't have to wait until the end of your life to see it. Be have a lot more peace in life if you find it, see that justice before the end. But, you have to stay true to who you are as a person. And that's the challenge that I think we all have. I mean, you made the comment about overcoming, I just wanted to screen share something else, Scott, that you could comment on in context here. This is another Q post. I have to share it because, again, this is showing that we have been socially engineered for this. The reason why Q has gotten so popular, and they're answering that right here, is that people are craving the truth. People are craving transparency. People are craving equal justice under the law. People realize they have not been treated right. They realize that the leaders are not there for themselves, the ones that we've had in the past. They are craving good. They are craving righteousness. They are craving true freedom and safety. Just fill in the blanks. Because, again, they want us divided by race, by class, by religion, have us fighting amongst ourselves, while they stay in their ivory towers watching, saying, look how wonderfully we, engineered the sheep. Because you didn't want to believe that the people you trusted the most were the ones who were betraying you. And Q has said this many, many times. Trust yourself. Trust that you're not alone, and that trust there are good people right beside you fighting for this. Because this is a spiritual war, and I think that's why it was so important that Q has come out. This is a war on those energetic levels that you just pointed out to us. Isn't that right? That's where the
absolutely. You just summarized everything very well. I love it.
Well, this is what we're trying to say is, okay, so I had a session with someone who did a past life karmic clearing on me, okay? It was really amazing. And I interviewed him on the GoldFish Report. And he had these commands where he was given like codes or keys or whatever to do this. And he called in the ascended masters and he did all of this stuff. And it was really very interesting because he took me through, okay, imagine yourself in a past life. Imagine that you were, trying to spread, you were being psychic, or you were channeling, and you were getting information from the cosmos, and you were trying to confront someone in the authority of it, or you were trying to disseminate it, right? That's why they burned all the witches and everything like that, right? Because they were intuitive, they were psychic, and they were able to get information that that they didn't want, that people in power didn't want that to spread, didn't want the truth to spread, right? So they burned all the witches. Now imagine being sitting in a cell, knowing that that's your fate in 5 minutes. What do you think a person is thinking as they're sitting there? They know they're going to be, skewed like a stuck pig on a skewer and burned to death. What do you think you're going to be thinking? What thoughts in your mind do you think you're going to be thinking? That maybe you shouldn't have done something. You go into doubt, you go into regret, you go into fear, and then imagine, them bringing you out, and then these are the last thoughts you have on your mind as you die. And then you come into your new incarnation, and you have these energies with you still. So naturally, you're going to have these vibrations. I mean, this was brilliant. I never heard of anything like before. So imagine now you're incarnated and your life is filled with these feelings of fear. You don't know where they came from. You're feeling, right? We're like totally unaware of how, we think we understand where it came from. Maybe some places we can point to distrust of a parent or a violation or something. But really, where does it come from? And a lot of it is past life stuff we're bringing with us. Yes. And what happened was when these, and we tend to hold those in weak areas of the body, right? So I had some massive reconstructive surgery on my ankle. You can see pictures of that here. Very gross.
Oh, okay? Holy cow.
I had some massive reconstruction. So I had, during this, I almost had to stop. I had so much pain in my ankle at that time This was after surgery. I had so much pain, I had to stop because I couldn't focus. And I have to tell you, they knew it. All the ascended masters who were there, all the guides, all the spirit guides, they knew what was going on. Let me tell you something. I wasn't telling the guy. His name's Richard Messer, and I have had him on before. He's really an amazing person. I didn't tell him what was happening until after it was over. But as he was doing this clearing, all these ascended masters, everybody was around me, and all of a sudden I felt this cold sensation around my ankle. And the pain, they healed the pain in a way. And what they were doing was releasing that karmic, that block. Because karmically, I was holding it in that area. That was where it was getting stuck. And as he did the karmic clearing, the pain in my ankle at that moment really just dissipated. And it hasn't been back as that intense ever since. So it is absolutely so much of what we're doing is dealing with understanding. Maybe for some people we won't understand, but I thought that was a great example of how how strong we come in with anxiety, how strong we come into this lifetime, and you might not know it, but as a baby, but why is a baby crying, or why is this baby this way? And it could just be they're reacting to whatever they were doing in their past life, because it wasn't that long ago they were there, right? It's like my daughter first came in, her first sentence was, "I want to go home," and we were in our home. Her first sentence was, "I want to go home." I'm like, okay, I know what this is about, like I figured it out, but it's what we bring into this life from our past life, things that haven't been resolved, even fears. They knew this, and they knew that we'd bring this into our next life. And so how people died in a past life is very relevant to what we have to overcome and resolve in this life.
Yes.
So, look, I'll tell you, not that this is not a monumental challenge, but just what you're saying, it's kind of like, resolve what you can, that serenity prayer, change what you can change. And wait, I have it right here. Hold on. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference.
Yes.
That's amazing, because that's kind of, I think where we're going with this, because we have to, that Ho'oponopono is so important, because you have to know what you can't change and forgive, and just let it go. Because who wants to stay in those lower vibrational energies? Who wants to stay there and attract these low vibrational entities to you, to scare you, and to reinforce those feelings of fear and reinforce those feelings? So that's what they do. So they torture you on your way out in your last life, and then they hold you, they socially engineer you to hold that vibration. It's really sick, but Jesus said there's more in the unseen world than in the seen world. So this is the spiritual battle that we're in right now, good versus evil. And you have to know yourself, and you will be judged. I mean, you will be held accountable for your actions, and that's right, Scott?
Absolutely. But we can change everything by meditating and going into unconditional love, because that's going to shift and destroy all the negativity. It's going to create a new perfected world. And that's where we're going. And believe it or not, St. Germain told me a couple of months ago, the good vibrations are winning. We are in control again. And so that's such a comfort to me, that we are winning the war.
We are winning the war, and I think it's about making a choice, isn't it, Scott? I mean, we can choose. The thing is that we always have free will to choose. I guess that's the beauty of free will. We might not always be able to understand why things happened in the past, but we can certainly learn what we can from them and at least let them go. It's hard when you don't have closure on certain things, or maybe you don't completely understand it, and it might not be meant for you to understand. It might not be meant for you to understand at that point in life, at that point in time. You might not understand it until 10 years later, but that doesn't mean you should stay stuck for the next 10 years. So you have to let go of that somehow, right, Scott?
Yes. And if you're having trouble letting go of stuff, there are teachers we are teaching and that have been taught. St. Germain's not just coming to me. He's coming to all kinds of people on the planet. And we are creating an environment to teach and mentor each other. Jesus was the perfect example of the perfect mentor. He gathered a group of people who would listen, and he would teach them these principles, and he would teach them how to incorporate it into their lives, and then he sent them out to teach others. And that's what we're doing right now, is we're mentoring the mentors, and we are teaching people how to get beyond our blockages, beyond our walls that are stopping us from moving forward. And most of it is self-worth issues, believe it or not. And so that's why this message about relationships which determine our self-worth is so important, because our relationship to our mother, our relationship to our father, and using Ho'oponopono to shift those. And then our relationship with God. You know, I talked to a guy yesterday who had a direct connection, was receiving revelation after revelation, and then all of a sudden it stopped. And his biggest question for me was, how do I get back in touch with God? And it just made me start crying, because, you know, that relationship is so important for your self-worth. And he realized that, and he had heard me talking on the GoldFish Report, and he wanted to get the answer to that question. And guess what I told him? We need to shift your self-worth. Know that you are worthy to talk to God again. Know that you are worthy to have that communication. And, you know, his wife said, he's smiling. He hasn't smiled in 10 years. And wow. It just touched me that he had called and had that question. And a lot of us are having that question. A bunch of people, 60% of the United States don't even ask the question. They just don't believe anymore. And so we need to create that love to bring us back into enlightenment. And that's where it starts, is when we get that vibration of love through our meditation and we send that out to the universe. It's going to shift everything. And then developing the skills to help people with their self-worth. And that's what I'm teaching. That's what I'm mentoring the mentors with, is helping people get beyond their blockages, beyond the walls that they come up against in the present life that are keeping them from expanding their consciousness and expanding their creativity. All humans are creators. We were made in the likeness and image of a God that created the universe. And so we are reflections of that God, so we are creators also. So right now it's time to start creating a better reality and creating love that will shift the reality and destroy the negativity.
Solve negativity. I'm just looking at this chart again. Power first appears. But let's look at this. I know we have to end this, but I almost don't want to end it. It feels so good.
Well, we want it to be a good message for people.
Right. But it says power first appears in 200. Maybe we should look at this power, meaning power to manifest. Is that what they're talking about? The power to create. Power to create, right?
Power to create manifests when you take courage. And like it says, life becomes more exciting. In other words, a lot of people are so bored, they're in the mundane. They're going to work every day. They come home, nothing changes, nothing shifts. And we are trying to move them into getting excited about life. Wow. We're empowering them. So courage brings about that level of empowerment. Life gets more exciting. You know, I love what I'm doing now because I am helping people move forward who haven't moved forward in years. And they're moving up on this map of consciousness into the higher realms of possibilities and becoming who they want to become. I've had 9 people now who I'm helping get their books done. things that they've wanted to do forever in their life, and I've helped them get beyond their own blockages, and they're accomplishing things. They're getting them done, and they're loving their lives more now, and they're moving into these higher levels of consciousness and self-actualization, and they love life now. And before, they were just kind of groveling and just unhappy and not moving their lives forward, and now they're creators. I love it.
That's wonderful. That's really wonderful. I mean, if you can go back and stop, you know, the video where that graph was, you should really look at it closely and study each level and what they're saying about each level, because the, you know, 2 levels up, then you were the willingness to, you know, have that inner. Let me take a quick look, because I just loved it. I kind of almost don't want this to end, but I have to end this for the sake of the.
Oh, I love the map of consciousness. You could, I could go over the map of consciousness. There's so many things involved.
We should do another one just on the map of consciousness. This is amazing. Because there's a lot. So willingness is overcoming inner resistance to life. So that's after courage. So first you need that courage, then you need the neutrality, which is beginning of inner confidence. Boom. That's it. Beginning of inner confidence.
Yes.
That's where you feel like you have the power to control. That's when you feel like in the tarot deck, you're the magician and you can start creating, you know, you can start manifesting things in your own life. But we do get stuck, you know, and there's no judgment. We do get stuck because we sometimes have blocks to proceeding ahead. And usually when there's a block, that's a reason, right? There's something you have to learn to overcome, or it's the wrong road, it's the wrong path. So it's often a time when we have to stop and really do some of our own introspection, myself included. I'm not saying I've got it all worked out in my life either. I've got a lot of blocks, I'll tell you. And sometimes it's going to force us to sit there and think about, just meditate. And if you're not in touch with Creator, then it's time to be, you know, if you're sitting there for a really long time and you don't know which way to go, it's time to go inside, yes. Right?
Yeah, that's what the Buddha talks about. And before we leave, I'm supposed to give a blessing.
Okay.
Oh, is it okay if we do that now?
Absolutely.
Okay. Having been mandated by the Creator of the universe and dedicated by Saint Germain, the Ascended Masters, Jesus, Sananda, and the Great Divine Director, to give blessings to all the humans on and off planet Earth, we bless each and every one of you that your minds will be stimulated by these discussions, that you'll want to learn more. We bless you that your minds will come into higher levels of enlightenment. We bless you that your heart will add love to your thoughts of enlightenment and higher thinking, and add millions times more energy to your creation. We bless each and every one of you that you will have the desires of your heart in righteousness and that they will be fulfilled. We bless you that your creative nature will come upon you and you'll be happy with what's happening in your life, that you will feel the joy of accomplishment, that you will feel your movement forward, and that you will know that you can accomplish whatever you set your mind and will to do. We bless your mindset to be on the higher aspects of Maslow's hierarchy, especially love, joy, bliss, and happiness, because this is what we desire to create for our entire world and the universe. We bless you that you will have these powers come into you. And then we bless you to move beyond your walls and blockages, that you will be able to find someone to assist you and help you to overcome these things and move into higher consciousness. We bless you and honor you. We bless you with abundance, safety, prosperity, and protection, that you will be able to have everything that you need to move up in Maslow's hierarchy, so you can move up into the self-actualization, which will bring you great joy and happiness. We seal these blessings upon you with the blessing of the Creator, all the ascended masters, all the angels, the archangels, the beings of the elements, to assist you with this. Call upon them. Ask, and it will be given. Knock, and the door shall be opened unto you. We seal this blessing upon all of you humans without any reserve. In the name of the Almighty, I am that I am, and in the name of Jesus Christ, so be it, so it is.
So be it. So it is. Thank you very much for that, Scott. That was very powerful. Thank you so much.
It made me cry. I'm so happy to do it.
Oh my goodness. Well, you don't want to see me cry. That's for sure.
Crying is a good thing. It's a release of emotions that need to be released.
You know, we've always done that though. I mean, like Winston's come on. Remember like one of the first programs he did, you know, like everybody cries on the, I mean, it's amazing. I don't think I did though, because I don't know. I probably wouldn't stop if I started. But anyway, no, it's amazing. You know, it's very heartfelt, and I think that's really what's important. What the viewers definitely connect with, and they appreciate your honesty and how open and candid, you know, your messages are. So thank you so much, Scott. It's been a pleasure. Can't wait to see your beautiful wife, amazing woman, Nikki, come back to the Goldfish Report soon. So maybe one of these days she'll come back and join us.
Well, she wants to be sooner than one of these days. I'm feeling she needs to be on either later this week or early next week. So
very soon.
So if you have time for, she has a message, and it's a good message, and I'll have her send you an email with it.
Yeah, she's amazing. She does this, I guess, what do you call it? It's kind of like the quantum healing. So she does this regression. It's really amazing. And she's so good at it. She's so patient. She knows exactly how to guide you through things. And not everybody has that gift. She has it. And she's really amazing. Did it for me, and I can't say enough about her. It was quite an interesting journey I went on. So we'll look forward to seeing her. To all of our viewers, happy 4th of July. Be safe, be vigilant, folks. Keep your eye out. We are at war. This is spiritual war. There are dark energies and entities out there who want to continue to cause harm, even though we are changing over to our golden age of humanity here, one way or the other. So be careful. Have a happy 4th of July wherever you are, well, at least in the United States. I think there's going to be a big announcement from the president. I hope so. I hope it's time.
Me too.
For our republic, finally, right, Scott?
Yes.
And we'll see all of you next time. We'll be back on Monday for another POTUS report. We might be back before then, but if not, enjoy your holiday, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for viewing, and this concludes this edition of the GoldFish Report.